Golden State Media Concepts Sci-Fi Podcast. Together we dive into the world of sci-fi and science fiction. From episodes of Star Trek, Star Wars, to The Walking Dead, Resident Evil, all the hot new science fiction movies from the back doors of Marvel or DC. The Golden State Media Concepts Sci-Fi Podcast. You'll never look at science fiction the same way again.
Welcome to the GSMC Sci-Fi Podcast on the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Melinda Barkhouse-Ross. Thanks so much for joining us this week. This will be the last in our character creation for Vampire V5. It's been a bit of a series that we've been working on, trying to help you maybe think outside of the box a little bit when it comes to character creation. Maybe this is exactly how you create your characters. I don't know, but I thought this was a pretty cool idea. So we've just been kind of running with it. This week, we are going to create a Ventrue for our final character creation episode. And we're doing this because I thought that a Tremere and the Gangrel, offered a lot of things that some of the other clans did. This week's clan, though, is the Ventrue. They are the rulers of the rulers, I suppose, is what you could call them. They really are the ruling class, the Blue Bloods, the kings of kings, if you want to look at them that way. And just to give you a little bit more background on the Ventrue clan, in their own eyes, the Ventrue is the clan of kings. They have the restraint, the wisdom, the control, and the pedigree to lead their kind through the night. Throughout their time as god kings of ancient Babylon and lords and ladies of the Dark Ages to their contemporary roles as guardians of royal blood, majority shareholders, and campaign fund backers, they have been obsessed with the impulse to rule. They collect their titles in the forms of precious blood, ensuring the growth of their legacy. While many other clans claim positions of influence in politics and business, no one can rival the Ventrue in the game of pure power and wealth. But lately, their arrogant projections as divinely chosen rulers, better fit to lead than any other clan, have begun to falter. Time is running out as they feel their privileges slipping through their fingers. The Ventrue tighten their grip and fight fang and claw to remain in control as masters of their kind. They are the clan of kings, the Blue Bloods, the tyrants, the warlords. And this week, we are going to be inspired by the one and only Ruth Bader Ginsburg for our Ventrue character creation. I am so excited about this. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Now, just a little bit of background on Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I'm sure that you know, but we're going to do this for, FYI reasons. So Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Associate Justice of the Supreme Court of the United States, and she was appointed by Bill Clinton and took the oath of office on August 10th in 1993. She is the second female justice of 4 to be confirmed to the court. She is 87 years old, born in Brooklyn, New York. She went to Columbia Law School, Cornell University, James Madison High School, Harvard Law School. She's got 2 kids and is just an all-around badass. And I think that she is a perfect inspiration for a Ventrue. Talk about somebody who rules in judgment and who rules, she believes she rules fairly. So I just thought that we would start maybe with a little bit of, a couple of quotes maybe from RBG to give us a bit of, kind of the flavoring, I suppose, of what this character is going to be like. So a couple of quotes from the RBG include, "My mother told me to be a lady, and for her, that meant be your own person, be independent." This is a lady who comes and sits at the table as an equal. She's not sitting at the table to lean in. She's not sitting at the table as a woman invited to play with the boys. She sits at the table ready to go as an equal right out of the gate. She's not asking for permission from anyone. She also quotes this, "Women will only have true equality when men share with them the responsibility of bringing up the next generation." Another quote from her, "I said on the equality side of it that it is essential to women's equality with man that she be the decision maker and her choice be controlling." and the state controlling a woman would mean denying her full autonomy and full equality. So her birthday recently passed, and there's been a lot of things a lot of other quotes that came out on her, reproductive justice, things like that, discrimination and equality. If you're a boy and you like teaching, you like nursing, you would like to have a doll, that's okay. We should each be free to develop our own talents, whatever they may be and not be held back by artificial barriers. This is a lady who is about equality and not at the detriment of one or either of the sexes. People ask me sometimes, when will there be enough women in the court? And her answer is, when there are 9. Okay, no problem. On life in general, she says, I do a variety of weightlifting, elliptical glider, stretching exercises, push-ups, and I do the Canadian Air Force exercises almost every day. Go ahead, RBG, with your bad self. Oh, I love it. On falling asleep during the State of the Union, she said, I wasn't 100% sober. This is perfect attitude for a Ventru. Truly, truly, truly. Now, we need to look at our Ventru archetypes, and then we're going to take a quick break. So when we look at the archetypes, now remember, this is a character inspired by RBG. So one of the things that I noticed with the Dwayne Johnson and Paul Rudd characters was that they were very linear. It was very much, let's take this and apply it here and make it work. I think what we're going to do is we're going to look at RBG and we're going to create a character that, toes the same line as RBG, but perhaps turn it a little bit on her head. So the Ventru archetypes include cold-blooded corporate director. I don't think it fits, but let's look at the description anyway. This Ventru controls a successful corporation, perhaps as an eccentric and reclusive CEO, or maybe as an influential silent partner involved in guiding the firm. This Ventru is always several steps removed from dirtying their hands, but will rarely hesitate over ethics if it means getting ahead of the competition. Now, I don't dislike that, but I think that we can do better as an archetype. Member of the Order. The Clan of Kings are well-suited visitors in secret societies such as the Freemasons. This Ventru knows how to spin their words. They act as a reclusive leader or an important member of their society, whether it be an informal gentleman's club or a ladies' guild, an alumni society for magnates and millionaires, or gatherings of concerned citizens clandestinely seeking to control their neighborhood. Talk about an HOA. Oh, that's great. A conservative politician. The Kings have always favored conservatism and maintenance of the status quo. The politically inclined blue blood act as the untouchable spin doctor lurking in the wings of the party, or advises pundits and newsmen on how to dictate the story. Manipulating the media, they suppress the masquerade breaches with ease. The Godfather, the so-called Godfather, wields their power through organized crime, manipulating gangs in the path of cash that runs from the streets to the bankers and politicians. Other Ventru may turn their noses up at such shady character, but the Godfather knows how to get things done. Blood sometimes needs to be spilled. That's not applicable at all, I don't think. High Priest. The Ventru have ever venerated their ancestors. This ancestor worship ranges from historians throughout studying to leading a cult to the ancestors' names, seeing the touch of their forebears in all that they do. The High Priest seeks to repeat history, fulfill goals of their ancestors, and spread their knowledge and their glory. I do not think that applies either. Now, I think that the way to do this for an RBG inspired character is to go conservative politician, sort of. We're going to twist it a little bit. What I gravitated towards when I was thinking about RBG and how a vampire inspired by her may go. If you happen to have the Vampire the Masquerade book, if you turn to page 103, that character on that page is how I am picturing this vampire character. On the page, you see an older lady. You see her in looks like a double-breasted blazer. She's wearing a beautiful red scarf around her neck. She's wearing leather gloves that have claws on them. She's wearing a cameo, pearl earrings. Her makeup is done impeccably. Her hair is pulled back. However, in the background, you see that she is holding the leash of a very fit man who's wearing a diamond-encrusted mask. This, I feel, is a dark tone. However, understanding in Vampire the Masquerade, there are no good guys. They're all kind of bad guys. Everything is relative. I think that works very well for our character, just that image alone. So what we're going to do is, instead of conservative politician, we are going to say that she is a media mogul. And we are going to go into her backstory a little bit. We're going to say that she was turned in the 1800s. We're going to say that she was born in 1818, simply because I like the number. Let's open up our character sheet. Again, if you don't have one handy, you can Google Vampire the Masquerade V5 PDF form fillable, and you'll get a digital copy that you can fill out. But make sure you look up Vampire the Masquerade V5. That part is important, the V5, because earlier editions will have things that the 5th edition Vampire book doesn't address, and there are things that are on the sheet that are not on the sheets for earlier editions of the book. So I think, should keep the RBG initials for Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I think that Rhonda Beatrice Gillis. I think that's a great name, because we're going to call this the RBG News Network. Yeah, it's a 24-hour news channel. Of course, in 1818, she started a newspaper. It was run very successfully for a woman who sat down at a table with men as an equal in the 1800s. This girl is badass. Let's make no mistake about that. So a news mogul, she is into multimedia, so she's got her online stuff, she's got her newspaper, and she has her 24-hour news channel. This is important, and it's going to give her a lot of power, because she is going to be able to cover up any breaches in the masquerade. She is going to be the character that other vampires are going to come to help them out of a jam. Now, one thing I will mention is we are making her quite old. She's going to end up being about 202 years old once we've put all of the math in. And that's because, this is something that you want to talk about with your storyteller and other characters around the table. Because if you think back when we did Paul Rudd, even when we did Harley Quinn and Dwayne Johnson, all of those characters were turned in the 90s. She is going to be turned in the 1800s, making her quite a bit more powerful than our other characters, and potentially more powerful than the other characters that are around the table. So you need to make sure that that kind of a character is going to fit in with the Chronicle and fit in and play well with the other characters that are around the table. You should all kind of complement each other a little bit. So if her date of birth was 1818, I want her apparent age to be older. I want her to be an older woman, much like the character that you see on page 103 in the book, because I think that that's important for this character to be an older lady if we are going to stay true to this idea that she was inspired by Ruth Bader Ginsburg. So we're going to put her apparent age at 78. So if you take 1818, you add 78, we're going to get 1896. And then you take 2020 and subtract 1896. I believe you end up with 202. That's roughly how I did the math. So knowing that our true age is 202 years old, we're going to take a break, and we're going to come right back as we start to break down our character and look at our predator type, and we're going to get into our attributes as well when we come back from the break. So we'll be right back on the GSMC Sci-Fi Podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Melinda Barkhouse-Ross. Be right back.
You really can't underestimate the importance of having the right creative work for your brand or your product. Whether it's a logo, a website, a book cover, or an ad campaign, you really need a quality design to make that big difference pop and deliver your overall engagement and success in a competitive market. That's where Design Crowd comes in. Design Crowd has over 750,000 designers from Sydney to San Francisco ready to help you with awesome creative ideas. They make crowdsourcing work for you. So if you need a logo or you're working on your creative branding, you can go to designcrowd.com and post a brief describing the design you need. And then within about 2 to 7 days, you'll receive up to over 100 different designs from designers around the world. Then you pick the best design and approve payment to the designer. So you're only paying for the design that you want. It takes a lot of the guesswork out of freelancing and out of crowdsourcing. And you don't have to be a huge company like Harvard Business School to use Design Crowd, although they have used it as well. You can start a project on Design Crowd for as little as $99. And if you go right now to designcrowd.com/health and wellness or enter the promo code health and wellness on their website, then our health and wellness listeners will receive up to $150 off of your design project. That's designcrowd.com/health and wellness or entering that promo code health and wellness.
Want to find out what movies to go see? Then check out the GSMC Movie Podcast. It's your ticket to the latest movies, whether it's a new blockbuster event, romantic, comedy, or action flick. This show has got it all covered. They talk some what to go see now, don't bother, what's hot on Netflix, and everything in between. That's gsmcpodcast.com/movie-podcast. When it's all about the movies, it has to be this new show. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
Okay, welcome back to the GSMC Sci-Fi Podcast on the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Melinda Barkhouse Ross. This is our final character build in our Vampire the Masquerade V5 series, which has been a lot of fun to do. Hopefully you have found a little bit of inspiration for your next character if you decide that you want to start playing in a chronicle, which I encourage you to do. If you are a D&D player, Vampire the Masquerade, dramatically different than D&D, so it's going to expand your horizons a little bit. And what I'm really enjoying about playing Vampire the Masquerade right now in the chronicle that I'm playing with my husband is that there is a lot of role playing, and the storyteller is there to keep beats of the story, but it really does come down to the collective storytelling that is agreed upon around the table, which I think is a beautiful thing. Okay, so we are doing a Ruth Bader Ginsburg inspired character today. We are making her a Ventru. She is a news mogul. That's our concept. Her predator type, I don't think anything but Osiris fits, to be perfectly honest. When you look at Alley Cat, remember, this is a lady who is very much in control, has been around for a while, and I just don't think Alley Cat fits. She's not a bagger. Can you imagine the indignity of drinking out of a blood bag for her? I don't think it would work. A blood leech, she certainly does not drink from other vampires. That's a rule in the Camarilla. Perhaps she is a member of the Camarilla, again, depending on what your storyteller allows. So drinking from other vampires is going to be a big-time no-no. A cleaver, drinking from humans, also a no-no. Consensualist, I don't think that she asks for permission from much of anybody these days. So I don't think that's going to fit. I almost went with farmer, but then I really read the description, and it's about feeding from animals. And I can't imagine our character drinking from chickens or rats. It's not going to be a thing that's going to happen. The Sandman, creeping around people's houses at night to drink from them in their sleep. No. A Scene Queen, I feel like she is past that as well. And Siren, she certainly does not use sex to lure in the people that she's going to drink from. So that really does leave us with Osiris. Now, just to break that down a little bit, the Osiris, it says this, and I'm pretty sure that we have used this particular predator type a couple of times, but just to, reiterate what it is. You are a celebrity among mortals, or else you run a cult, a church, or something similar, like a news operation, for example. You feed from your fans or worshippers who treat you as a deity. You always have access to easy blood, but followers breed problems with the authorities, organized religion, and indeed the Camarilla. In life, you might have been a DJ, a writer, a cultist, a preacher, or a LARP organizer. Okay. This fits because she's going to have a lot of reporters. She's going to have a lot of contacts that she has established over the years. And I just think that with a little bit of fame that she's going to have, it's going to make this character really interesting to role play. Now, there are a couple of things that we get from this predator type. So we get to add the specialty of occults. or performance. And I feel like we're going to end up with performance anyway. So we're going to go into occult. She gains 1 dot of presence, which is great. Spend 3 dots between fame and herd backgrounds. We're going to go all 3 in herd. We're just going to double down on it. And you spend 2 dots between enemies and mythic flaws. All right. So let's just peek a little bit and have a look at what this means. So 1 dot of presence. Let's go into our disciplines and have a look at what 1 dot of presence is going to get us, because I'm pretty sure it's quite significant what presence does for us, especially a character like that, like what we're creating. Okay, so she is going to get awe and daunt. So anyone in the presence of this vampire finds their attention inexplicably drawn to them. Makes sense for somebody who is 202 years old. Those listening to the vampire speak might suddenly agree on subjects where they once held different viewpoints. This will be valuable, if she finds herself having to cover a masquerade breach. She'll be able to do that with her reporters. While this power doesn't cause rapt infatuation, which is good for our character, we don't want it to, it's still strong enough to sway the minds of most mortals, which is perfect, okay? Daunt. Instead of attracting people, the vampire uses presence to repel. With this power, the user appears threatening and exudes an aura of menacing power, enough to make most mortals avoid their attention, and even vampires think twice about acting against them. This works perfectly for someone who I think runs a news network, newspaper, online, and television. She needs to be quite powerful and quite intimidating, I think. So it's perfect. I like using presence for her quite a bit. Another thing that we get is 3 dots between fame and herd backgrounds. We are going to go all in on herd. We want her to have as many people around her that she can feed from at any time that she wishes. And it's an interesting twist when you add clan bane on top of that. And we're going to get to that in just a little bit. But I think that it all works quite well. So we're going to write those down on our sheets. We have awe. We're going to get that 1 dot of presence. So awe and daunt is what we're going to get there. The clan bane for the Ventru is an interesting one. It's very specific as well in terms of who and what they can feed on. So the Ventru stick to a certain type of person, whether it's a true blonde or only redheads, natural redheads. Perhaps they only feed from people of Swiss descent. That's a possibility. Now, I think what we're going to do for this character, this RBG-inspired vampire, is we're going to allow her to only feed from people without tattoos. I bet you she has such a refined palate for her food, for blood at this point, that tattoos, the ink, makes the blood taste funny. And I don't think that she likes it. I bet she also finds tattoos quite tacky. So why would she want that around her in her life? So yeah, our clan bane will be that she can only feed from people without tattoos. So that's going to put quite a limit, I think, because it's hard to find people without tattoos these days, right? For her herd merit, when we start to, we're going to put 1 down now, but we're going to max that one out as much as we can. And we get a mythic flaw as well. We're going to take stake bait for that. Now, that means that she is going to meet the final death if she is staked through the heart. Perhaps that goes a little bit against tradition in terms of, as a vampire, you get more and more and more hard to kill. You get harder and harder to kill. That's proper English. And I think that that's not going to be the case for this character specifically. I think that it keeps her on her toes a little bit. So we're going to make her stake bait is what the flaw is called. We're going to stick with that. Now, one thing that we know, because she was turned in the 1800s, is that with her true age being about 202 years old, roughly, it makes her quite old. So that's going to give her a blood potency of 2. So let's just go through that square on our character sheet and fill that out now while we are getting set to take another break. So our blood surge, according to the chart, is going to be 1 dice. Also 1 dice for the power bonus. Her mend amount is 2 points. Her rouse reroll is level 1. Her feeding penalty, so animals and bagged blood give her back half a hunger point. and her bane severity is 2. So it is quite serious that she can only drink from people without tattoos. That's what that kind of lends itself to when you're looking at your overall vampire. The bane severity of 2 means it's quite hard for her to drink from somebody who does have tattoos. Okay, we are going to take a break here, and when we come back, we are going to get into our attributes and our skills for our Ruth Bader Ginsburg inspired vampire for Vampire the Masquerade V5. We'll be right back with the GSMC Sci-Fi Podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Melinda Barkhouse-Ross. We'll be right back.
You really can't underestimate the importance of having the right creative work for your brand or your product. Whether it's a logo, a website, a book cover, or an ad campaign, you really need a quality design to make that big difference pop and deliver your overall engagement and success in a competitive market. That's where Design Crowd comes in. Design Crowd has over 750,000 designers from Sydney to San Francisco ready to help you with awesome creative ideas. They make crowdsourcing work for you. So if you need a logo or you're working on your creative branding, you can go to designcrowd.com and post a brief describing the design you need. And then within about 2 to 7 days, you'll receive up to over 100 different designs from designers around the world. Then you pick the best design and approve payment to the designer. So you're only paying for the design that you want. It takes a lot of the guesswork out of freelancing and out of crowdsourcing. And you don't have to be a huge company like Harvard Business School to use Design Crowd, although they have used it as well. You can start a project on Design Crowd for as little as $99. And if you go right now to designcrowd.com/health and wellness or enter the promo code health and wellness on their website, then our health and wellness listeners will receive up to $150 off of your design project. That's designcrowd.com/health and wellness or entering that promo code health and wellness.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to the GSMC Sci-Fi Podcast on the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Melinda Barkhouse-Ross. This is our final episode in our Vampire the Masquerade character creation series. The goal of this was to help inspire you when it comes to your character creation for your next chronicle that you're going to be part of. Perhaps you're a storyteller and you just want some ideas that you could pitch to your players when you sit down for your session 0. All of these things are possible. But let's get back into our Ruth Bader Ginsburg inspired character for Vampire the Masquerade V5. So we're going to get into her attributes. And I think that the way that this is broken down is perfect for our character. We're going to do 1 attribute at 4, 3 at 3, 4 at 2, and 1 at 1. Now, if you are a lady and you started a newspaper in the 1800s and it has been successful enough for it to still be in operation, first of all, now has spun off to a 24-hour news network on television. Maybe it was the very first one. And we've also gone online. So true multimedia at this point. Intelligence, I think, has to be our score at 4. I don't think anything else is going to work there. For our level 3, we're going to stick with a lot of our social and mental stuff. I don't think we're going to play too much on the physical because I don't think she needs to. But we're going to put our wits at 3. We're also going to put manipulation and composure at 3. Manipulation, I think that in order for her to use her news network, use manipulation to cover any breaches to the masquerade with her news network, which I think is going to be invaluable. Her composure, I think it takes quite a bit to unnerve her. I think she's seen a lot in 200 years. So we're going to put her composure at 3. And wits at 3, I mean, that just goes hand in hand with intelligence. You can look at it even in terms of your wisdom and intelligence scores if you want to talk D&D. So I think that the two of them kind of work the same way together. Our 2 at level 2 are going to be resolve and charisma. I think that she still is quite charismatic, but I don't think that she has to rely on it. And we're going to put strength and stamina at 2 as well. I mean, as a 200-year-old vampire, she is simply strong. She's not a brawler, though, so I don't think that we need to go more than 2 in strength and stamina. And we're going to put her dex at 1. Again, I just don't think that she worries too much about the physical side of things. I don't think she's too concerned with that. Now, what's going to be the interesting breakdown here for this character is going to be the skill distribution. Because she is so old, we do get 35 experience points that we're going to spend, and we're going to take care of that now, I think, as we look at our character here. I think what we're going to do is we're going to make her a specialist. Because we get those 35 experience points in addition to what we're going to spend here, I think that we're going to be able to make her an expert, but I think we're also going to make her quite balanced through the manipulation of our skill points that we're going to spend. So let's have a look at this. I think that her 1 skill at 4 is going to be politics. As a Ventru, I think that you have to be strong in politics in order to navigate the Ventru clan itself, let alone how that clan works with all of the other clans. I think you need to be politically inclined as a Ventru. Now, our skills that we're going to take at level 3, we're going to need 3 of them. I think that we are going to look at intimidation, we're going to look at persuasion, and we're going to look at finance as well. I think that those 3 things are very Ventru-centric. Her intimidation is going to go hand in hand with manipulation, so I think that's going to add fantastic dice rolls for you. It's going to make a really big dice pool. Streetwise, you can't be 200 years old and not be street smart. I just don't think that that is realistic. We're going to do 2 for technology, investigation, and academics because this woman is no dummy, okay? For our level 1s, we're going to go with, and performance. We can't forget performance. For our skills at level 2, we're going to throw in our performance. We're going to look at investigation, and we're going to look at technology. No, sorry, that's all wrong. 3 skills at level 1, we're going to go survival, etiquette, and insight. I think that she is going to have etiquette. I think for this character in particular, it's going to go hand in hand with her politics. In order to be an effective politician, you need to know how to approach and speak with any number of the other clans. So a Ventru speaking to a Bruja or a Gangrel or even a Machiavellian, you're going to have etiquette. You're going to have to understand how these other clans work. You cannot, for example, as a Ventru, go into a Bruja and intimidate. You can, but I feel like it's going to be a much higher difficulty. Or at least if I was a storyteller, that's how I would run that. I would think it would need to be quite difficult. So now that we have all of those things laid out, let's add our extra 35 points. And we're going to spend this in interesting ways because we want to make sure that we are quite powerful. So we're going to drop 3 points. Now it's 3 times 3 in order to get certain points here because we want 3rd level firearms. Now, recognizing that we did not give her a lot of physical attributes. She's not overly powerful. For firearms, I think this makes sense. I think that she's not completely helpless. I think that if necessary, she can throw down with a weapon. She's not going to be a brawler, so I don't think that melee is going to work here either. So firearms, I think, is where we're going to spend a lot of our extra points. Academics, we're going to add a couple of points in there as well. We're going to go for some investigation. And I think that we're going to just drop our 35 points in there. I think that all of these are good decisions. When you get into your disciplines, this is what is interesting because presence, dominate, and fortitude are your 3 disciplines for Clan Ventrue. But because of our predator type, we ended up with a point in presence. So we actually have all 3 of our disciplines for this character. Powerful, right? So for presence, we ended up with awe and daunt. We've already covered those. For dominate, I know we've talked about this before, cloud memory and compel. I think this is going to be powerful as somebody who's running a news agency to be able to cloud memories and compel. Even if you have a journalist who is a little too into the masquerade, perhaps they believe in conspiracies and things like that, and that there is some kind of mass cover-up. I think that compel and cloud memory are going to be very, very useful in here. And for fortitude, which is one that we haven't really covered before. So I think we're going to do a deep dive into this one. We have 2 points in fortitude. We're going to do 4 different... 4 different points, 4 different levels, or 2 different levels, 4 different things that we're going to be able to use. It's prized by immortals. Fortitude grants the ability to resist physical and mental assaults. Few vampires survive longer than a century without at least a mote of fortitude, especially in a world where violence is common and not even kindred are safe. In these nights, fewer vampires use fortitude to resist the sun than they do to withstand violent harm, fire, and supernatural coercion. All right, so for our character, because we have level 2, right, we get resilience, which means you are endowed with supernatural endurance. The user can strengthen their physical resolve, which is fantastic because we don't have a lot of physical characteristics with this vampire build. Unswayable mind. The user gains a mystical ability to resist any attempts to sway them through mundane charms, coercion, and wiles. Some exhibit unswayable mind as a zen-like calm. Well, with others, it's supernatural stubbornness, which is... let's face it, kind of perfect for this character. I don't think you could be a female with a newspaper in the 1800s and not have a level of stubbornness to what you do. Level 2, toughness. Honey, you cannot be a woman from the 1800s running a newspaper and not have toughness to you. You cannot be a woman running a news empire and not have a level of toughness to you. So all vampires with this power exhibit an innate ability to ignore damage that would otherwise inconvenience and even disable others of their kind. While this power alone gives no protection against banes and other aggravated damage, the protection it confers adds up in the long run. I like that. I like this a lot. Enduring beasts. The user shares a small portion of their unnatural toughness with the animals they influence. Teeming swarms and great beasts alike exhibit a resistance to fleeting injuries almost equal to the vampire themselves. Now, I know we didn't take any animal kind or kin in our disciplines or in our skills. But I think that this may add a little bit extra to the character. It's not going to give us any additional points in anything, but I think that it makes quite a bit of sense for this character. So we're going to take a break here. When we come back from the break, we are going to get into our backgrounds, merits, and flaws, which is where we're really going to start to shake out some of the depth and real areas for role play and really kind of flesh out the skeleton that we have so far for our RBG-inspired character for Ventrue. We'll be right back on the GSMC Sci-Fi podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Melinda Barkhouse-Ross. Back in a couple minutes.
Watching TV has changed over time. Streaming has become the new norm. That's why Golden State Media Concepts television podcast dives headfirst to the world of cord cutting. Want to be on the loop of what's hot in Netflix? Or if it's not a preference, what about original shows in Hulu? We've got you covered. Join us as we fill in the blanks and talk about movies to stream and what show you should be binging. This is the Golden State Media Concepts television podcast.
Welcome back to the GSMC Sci-Fi podcast on the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Melinda Barkhouse-Ross. So, We are working on our Ruth Bader Ginsburg inspired Ventrue character for Vampire the Masquerade V5. This is the final episode in our vampire character creation series. I know we didn't get to the Tremere, and I know we didn't get to the Gangrel. You can look at those if you would like to. I think that a lot of those share things that some of the other clans have looked at, especially the Gangrel when it comes to their specialties and things like that. The Tremere, you're going to look at blood magic and blood rituals, which is really self-explanatory in the book, so I didn't think that it needed a magnifying glass put onto it. So to stop us from getting a little bit too repetitive with our character builds, we're going to stop at the Ventrue. So we're going to look at our backgrounds, merits, and flaws right now, and there are a couple of things that we need to keep in mind. One of them is that we picked up a couple of points from our predator type for both our merits and our flaws. Now, because of this, we have 9 to spend on merits, and we have 4 that we need to spend on flaws. So we already have the herd merit. We're going to add to that, and we are going to max it out. We're going to give this character the most possible points that we can when it comes to the herd merit. And this is going to do a lot of things for this character. It is going to give her the ability to have a huge pool of people that she is going to be able to feed from, which I think is going to be very valuable. So the numbers break down like this. If you're going to go 5 with the herd merit, you get 31 to 60 vessels. Pick 3 resonances every week. Herd maintenance and recruitment begins to brush up against the masquerade. For example, if you have a large cult or a large sweatshop, that kind of thing. Now, keep in mind that she is in control of a news network. So brushing up against the masquerade, I don't think is a huge deal for her, especially with the level of manipulation and things that she has that she can take on at will. Another thing that we gained through our clan through our predator type was the mythic flaw for stake bait. Basically, the stake bait means that if she is staked through the heart, that is going to equal the final death. There's no coming back from that one, which is fine. I think that as a powerful vampire, she's going to have ways to, make sure that she is safe and not worry too much about it. So what we need to look at next is some of the other things that we can do here. And there was one that I thought was really interesting, and it's one that we haven't discussed at all, and it's the Mala, and I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing it, M-A-W-L-A. So this trait represents 1 or 2 group of kindred who look out for you, offering guidance, information, or aid once in a while. Very valuable to someone who is running a news network and may need to cover up any breaches in the masquerade, right? The word comes from medieval Arabic, meaning different things, from a trusted one to uncle to source of neighborly protection. To non-Muslims whose oath still binds them, Western vampires brought the term back from the Crusades as the Ashira and Camarilla find themselves increasingly allied with the Gehana War. Mala, the plural is Malai, may act as a mentor. Such a role commonly falls to your sire if they don't treat you as property or ignore you altogether. Your Mala might trade information to mutual benefit, which I think is exactly what happens with ours. They may even offer you aid if you have a respected relationship. A Mala may be powerful, but their power need not be directed. Depending on the number of dots in this background, your Mala might be nothing more than an ancient vampire with a remarkable information network, or they might be a centuries-old vampire with a tremendous influence and supernatural power. They may offer advice, speak to the prince or baron on your behalf, steer elders clear of you, or give warning when you are walking into situations you don't necessarily understand. Your Mala, of course, expects their favors to be returned. A Mala rating could even represent a group of like-minded vampires, such as elders of the city's Tremere. As a general rule, a Mala group consists of 1 dot more than a single kindred at the level. A coven of elder Mala would be a 4 dots, for example. Whoever they are, write them down in your relationship map when you buy them. As a general rule, they will provide a helpful word and occasional political push to cover, but they don't fight your battles for you or call in valuable favors. They must do so for their own sake in order to aid you. So We are going to go with 3 in this one. So a Primorgan or an Anarch Revolutionary Council member. Basically, the people that are going to be helpful to you as a 200-year-old vampire who is a protector or someone who is able to protect any transgressions towards the masquerade or any breaches in the masquerade. This is going to be a very powerful resource for you. And it's going to put you in a very good position and according to this character as well, because you're going to be able to do a lot of favors for a whole lot of other people. While they may not be indebted to you exactly with this merit, they are going to be more apt to help you out, I think. So I think that's awesome. Resources. This is one that I think we're going to go on instead of having Haven. Here is why. And this may be something that you need to talk to your storyteller about during your episode 0. She's quite wealthy. There's no question about that. But I think that this resources merit takes care of your Haven. And here's why. It's in the description. So if we go level 4 resources, you get mansion, helicopter, or private jet, very specialized high-end equipment. So if we pick her with a mansion and she has very high-end specialized equipment, that can still include your helicopter. I mean, your television station may even have a helicopter that they help use for reporting the news and things like that, which you would have at your fingertips and you could use. Again, this is something that you would need to talk to your storyteller about. We're putting it down at 4 points on our character sheet right now, though. Influence. We're going to take this as a flaw, and we're going to go 2 because we have 4 that we need to get rid of. So despised, I think, is what we're going to do here. I feel like you cannot be a woman in a position of power running a 24-hour news station and not have people who don't like what you do. I mean, we see it with Fox News, with MSNBC. There are people who disagree with the position that those news channels take, however slanted the news may or may not be on either of those channels. I think that there are people who have a problem with that. And I think that her news channel is going to be no exception to this rule. So we're going to take a despised influence. We're going to take stalker as well. I feel as somebody who is the leader of a very accomplished media empire, she's going to have at least paparazzi who are following her around. And I think that that is going to be something that will be interesting for you to explore in your game as a flaw. Also, we're going to take another mythic flaw. And we're doing that because we have 1 point left, and it's really hard to find a mythic flaw or a flaw that's interesting at level 1. So we're going to go mythic flaw, and she cannot enter uninvited. So she has to be invited into a mortal's home or place of work or whatever. I think that that's interesting. Again, it may be something that your storyteller bumps up a bit if you are able to take your resources and double down on that and say that it includes Haven. At 4 dots. Just a thought that you may have and something that's worth discussing with your storyteller. We are going to take a quick break, and we will be right back to talk about our touchstones and convictions on our Vampire the Masquerade V5 character build. This week inspired by the one and only Ruth Bader Ginsburg, RBG herself. We'll be right back.
The GSMC Life and Happiness podcast takes you on a journey of exploration. We'll discuss tried and true methods alongside the latest trends of how to best live your life to its fullest and happiest. From psychology to meditation, science to self-help books, the GSMC Life and Happiness podcast will help you to discover what makes you happy and how you can live life being the best you possible. Download the GSMC Life and Happiness podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back to the GSMC Sci-Fi Podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Melinda Barkhouse Ross, and today, the final in our Vampire the Masquerade character build series. We are ending on Clan Ventru. They are the Blue Bloods, the ruler of kings. And our character inspiration for today is Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I think that is a brilliant idea as a Ventru. We kind of took the archetype of the conservative politician, twisted it around a little bit, and we've made her a media mogul. A couple of things to keep in mind here is that she was born in 1818. Our character was turned in 1896. Her apparent age is 78, which I think is fantastic for this character. I'm so in love with it. So her true age is somewhere in the ball field of 202 years old. Ballpark. Sorry, I got my metaphors mixed up. Ballpark of about 202 years old. That's going to give her a blood potency of 2 and all of the things that come from that. We did talk about it a little bit earlier, so I don't want to deep dive into that again. But what we do need to get into is the touchstones and convictions for this character. Now, being someone who is in news media, I think that in order for someone to have trusted her back in the 1800s, she really would have had to be above reproach. I think that the always keep your sworn word would have been very, very powerful for her as she built her empire. Always keeping your word would be important for sources and things like that. You know, like it's off the record or don't use my name or, you know, anything along those lines. I think that always keep your sworn word for her is something that she truly values. And I think that it's quite deep rooted into, you know, the center of what it is for her to be a kindred, really, and to be in a position of power. Always keep your sworn word is really valuable to her. Now, our touchstone. Remember, touchstones are the mortals who are living, who keep you more in touch with your humanity. So I think what we're going to go with is someone who represents something that you once held dear in life and still cling to, be it a soldier, a baseball player, a musician, or an artist, or a clergy from your faith. We're going to look at it as her reporters that she employs, specifically her newspaper reporters. Here's why. That's where she started in the 1800s, her newspaper. Those reporters that came to work for her as a female-run newspaper would have been the people that she valued and trusted implicitly. And I think that she still feels that way, specifically about the newspaper reporters. Does she like and enjoy her television reporters? Of course she does. But I think that there is something still that she holds very, very dearly onto with her newspaper. As the newspapers, you know, are kind of falling out of vogue, I think that her newspaper she keeps very well funded. I think that she may even give scoops to the newspapers, and then it makes its way into the television. She could even give them exclusive stories. I bet you she has investigative reporters that she employs solely for the newspaper, and they are the ones who take the stories and cross over into the into TV. So I'm sure she has television specific reporters, but I think the newspaper reporters are really the ones that she has her favorites for. Obviously, she's going to have her favorites in terms of her multimedia reporters and her television anchors and things like that. But I think the newspaper folks are the ones that she truly, truly, truly holds on to. So, if you want to break down our character quickly, to summarize, we took our character inspiration today from Ruth Bader Ginsburg herself, RBG. We did keep the RBG initials. I thought that was a way to pay tribute to our inspiration today. So we kept RBG. We gave her the name of Rhonda Beatrice Gillis. So she runs the RBG News Network. It includes newspaper, television, and online as well. Her predator type is Osiris, and she is of Clan Ventru. She's 10th generation, which gives her a blood potency of 2. Sire is unknown. Interesting. We focused on mental and social attributes and skills because at 200 years old, I think that, she does have strength because you can't be a 200-year-old vampire and be weak, but she's not a brawler. She's not a melee fighter. We did give her 3 in firearms because she needs to be able to protect herself. But I think that she relies on people around her to keep her protected. We really focused in on politics. As a Ventru, I don't think that you can have one dot in politics and be successful. So we took our specialist skill spread and we gave her 4 in politics and then broke down focusing on social skills and mental attributes as well. I thought that was important. Her health is 5, her willpower is 5, and because she is, over a certain number of years old, she lost a point in humanity. So everybody starts with 7. She is starting with 6 because she's older. In a turn of fate, she ended up with all 3 of her clan disciplines. Because of our predator type, we got to take a point in presence. So because of that, in presence, we have awe and daunt. She has 1 point in dominate, so we get cloud memory and compel. And in fortitude, we took 2 points because we haven't really experienced fortitude. And I think that it really adds to this character and gives her some depth. So she gets resilience, unswayable mind, toughness, and enduring beast. Now, as you progress, you level up, sort of. You don't go like level 2, level 3 the way that you do in D&D, but you get your experience points and you spend them on skills and buying other pieces of your disciplines. So the disciplines cost a lot. But what I think you would do with this character is you would save up those skill points and you would buy more presence. I think presence, along with the fortitude and some dashes of dominate, are going to be huge for this character and just make her stupid powerful. Her touchstones and convictions: always keep your sworn word. Her reporters who work for her are her favorites, and they are the touchstones that keep her a little bit closer to humanity. I feel like they know her. They may not be able to pick up a cell phone and call her, but they certainly have had conversations with her through their employment. Her clan bane is very specific for Ventru. They can feed on a very specific type of blood. For example, true redheads. Okay. But for our character, we went with can only feed from people without tattoos. I think to her palate, her blue blood palate, I think that tattoos make the blood taste funny, and I don't think that she likes it. She definitely doesn't drink bagged blood or from, animals. I think that disgusts her, to be honest. She's quite snooty. So, feeding from people without tattoos, I think, is great. Her background's merits and flaws. We maxed out the herd merit. It's like an obnoxious number of people that she has that she can feed from on a weekly basis. Her mythic flaw, we have 2 different ones. We've got stake bait and we have cannot enter uninvited. So she can't go into a mortal's home unless she's been invited. She has a stalker. Her influence flaw is despised. I don't think that you can run a media network and not have people who do not like what you do or what you stand for. So I thought that made sense. She's got level 4 in resources. I picked level 4 in resources and didn't go with Haven this time. And hopefully this is something that you can talk to your storyteller about, because if you have resources at level 4, you could have mansion along with your private jet or your helicopter. In this situation, she's a media mogul, so I'm assuming that her television network has a helicopter. So if she keeps her mansion but has access to that helicopter whenever she wants it, I think is a big deal. The Mala, I'm sure I'm pronouncing it wrong, and oh my god, I'm so sorry if I am. Mawla. We went level 3, so that means that she has a number of people that she can go to for advice or for help, and I feel like she is that equivalent for other people as well. So I feel like she's very middle tier on this one, so we gave her 3 in that. She's 202 years old. Her apparent age is 78. She was born in 1818, died in 1896. She started a newspaper in the 1800s, and that newspaper, by the way, still going strong, very well funded. A lot of other newspapers are crashing down around her, but hers is still fantastic. It is branched into a 24-hour television channel, news channel, and as well as some multimedia stuff online. But she really does hold a lot of pride in her newspaper specifically because that is kind of where she got her start. So that is our Ventru RBG-inspired vampire for Vampire version 5. When we come back after the break, we are going to quickly wrap up what your session 0 should look like, what it should include, and maybe how to handle some conflict at your table. We'll get into that next on the GSMC Sci-Fi Podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network.
the Golden State Media Concepts Travel Podcast, the show that gives you advice on everything travel. We explore places you've always wanted to go, as well as giving tips for traveling in those places. We'll give you advice on the best sites for travel tips, information, and discounts. Join us as we travel the world, explore cultures, and meet new people. The Golden State Media Concepts Travel Podcast has got you covered. Download the GSMC Travel Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back to the GSMC Sci-Fi Podcast on the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Melinda Barkhouse-Ross. I just want to reiterate a couple of things before we wrap up on this series. If you are going to start a campaign or a chronicle, they call it, for Vampire V5, I want you to make sure in your session 0 and that you have a couple more players than you expect to stay with you. This is why. I want you to be very selective in how you tell your story. And I want you to do things like make sure that the people around your table are going to be okay with some of the things that you include in your story. I shared a couple of weeks ago on Twitter, I'm sure if you scroll back through the GSMC podcast or Twitter feed, that you will find the breakdown of topics. I think you should share that around your table, even use it as a Google Doc so people can go in and anonymously mark X's by the things that they don't want included in the campaign. It could be sexual assault. It could be racism that people don't want included. It could be in any number of things. So that's important, and it's a really valuable discussion for you to have at your table as you're setting up your session 0 so your players know what to expect. Also, another thing that I really love the idea of is the X card. It's as simple as having recipe cards. Take a Sharpie, mark a big ol' X on it. As you are telling your story, all your player needs to do is hold up the X. You wrap it up as quickly as possible and you move on. It's not something that you need to have a drawn out conversation about at the table. If somebody is uncomfortable with it, then that is something that is dropped at the table as soon as that X card is raised. And it is something that you should follow up with that player after the game in private. Just say, hey, I'm sorry if that went too far. Don't give up on the table. It's not something that we're going to include in the game as we move forward. And respect it. Respect the player and respect the storyteller. Now, if you are at the table for your session 0 and somebody is like, oh, God, really, we're going to have that kind of a game, or we're not going to include this in the game, and I think that it's something that is valuable to storytelling, they're more than welcome to not come back to your table and be mature about it. You know, you don't have to be mean or nasty about it or to that player afterwards. And player, you don't need to be awful about that storyteller either. If you're not going to play a chronicle with a particular storyteller, it's nothing against the storyteller, nothing against you as a player. It's simply a decision. It is simply a point of view. Not every table is right, and not every player is right at every table. So just something to keep in mind. And again, remember, in Vampire the Masquerade, there are no heroes. Everybody is the bad guy. So keep that in mind. Have fun rolling the dice, and let us know if you have decided to pick up any of the characters that we have developed with Vampire the Masquerade V5 character builds here on the GSMC Sci-Fi Podcast. So who knows where we go from here next week. We may jump back into D&D for a little while. We may take on some of the other stuff that I have seen on social media as far as game etiquette and things like that go. But for now, we will sign off this week on the GSMC Sci-Fi Podcast on the GSMC Podcast Network. Listen, if you like what we do, we would love it if you would drop a 5-star review. If you have a bit of a problem with anything that we've talked about, we appreciate comments, feedback, because, honey, we're not going to get any better at this if you're not telling us and giving us feedback. If you dig what we do, honey, nobody likes anything better than a great compliment. So drop a 5-star review, a few words if you have the time for it, and hopefully we'll see you back here next week on the GSMC Sci-Fi Podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Melinda Barkhouse-Ross. I hope to see you next week.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sci-Fi Podcast. part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.